Thank you for listening to Best Practices. I'm joined today by Kayla Ashlee, founder and CEO of Spexy. Thanks for joining me, Kayla.
Steve, I'm so happy to be here again. This is fabulous. The last one was so much fun. So I'm excited to dive in again.
Thank you for joining. So, last time you were here, we talked about best practices for ongoing training. Subscribe if you haven't and go back and listen to that one. It was a fantastic conversation. Today, I'd love to hear a little bit about turning training into a more successful practice. Before we get into the topic, please introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about your eye care journey, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, some people tell these stories about like really profound, like, this is how I got into eye care because I had this miraculous experience. Mine was because my mom faxed my resume to an eye care practice. It's like, it was not profound at all. And if that ages me, that it was a fax that was sent in, great. For those who don't know, Google it.
Right.
Basically, I was going to school for business and marketing, kind of finishing up my degree, and I had worked at Starbucks my entire college career, and I was like, I want a real job. And my mom, who normally is not this type of mom to like go and do things for me, she just had a copy of my resume and just started like sending it out to everyone that was in the newspaper. Yeah, all the
Wow.
yeah, way back when. That was way before Indeed, that's for sure. So anyway, I got a call from this optical practice and two doctors that were there. I was working the front desk, and I am so blessed because the opticians that worked there were like, "Hey, Kayla, we see that you're up there at the front desk basically doing all this pre-selling for the opticians." So by the time the patients got to the optician, they were like, "This is awesome." And so they're like, "Come here, we're going to teach you how to be an optician," which was beautiful. So I quickly went from front desk to optician and was taught the trade by a gal named Erica Benier. I love her. We're still in contact. She's amazing. And I was very lucky to have her as my trainer because what I have learned is that not all trainings are extremely robust or refined. If you listen to our last episode, many of them don't have the framework and often end up missing out on little bits and pieces. And I don't know if it was necessarily Erica's not a framework type of person, but I'm also a very structured framework kind of learner. And so between the two of us, it worked out really well. I learned what I know in the optical industry and with a bit of my business background helped for me to really understand not just how to be a good optician, but also different opportunities in business that many opticals don't necessarily pay attention to because optical can be so it's so dynamic, right? There's so many different types. We've got medical billing, we've got vision billing, we've got the patient care on the doctor side, we've got the opticians, there's so many different dynamics of running an eye care practice that my training, I feel, it was meant to be when I started managing some other offices and realized that there are a lot of opportunities that were missed. And so I started creating solutions and tools for these offices. Excuse me. I started creating solutions and tools for these offices. And what that allowed for me to do is to then go about, giving these tools to offices. And what I realized in doing that and giving these tools to these offices is that they didn't know how to use them. Like in my brain, I figured I knew how to use them, but not everyone else did. So then I
Right.
started creating trainings for how to use these tools. And then I realized that the training that I have as an optician and as, being able to run and manage a practice is something that not everybody has because maybe, their predecessor had forgotten something, or maybe they just never ran into it when they were doing their follows around the office. Ultimately, that's how Spexy was created, is because I had created these tools that can help offices to better manage their optical inventory. And then on the flip side, I was also able to take my unknown skill that I had in training and be able to put it into an online platform that we now call Spexy. So now we have the video training and I get to help over 1,800 different users. So yay!
That's amazing. We've been friends for a long time. I had no idea how similar our eye care like entry
Oh,
story
really?
was. When I was 16, I was working at a movie theater and my mom called me one day and said, "Hey, you want to go work for this eye doctor?
Oh,
I've got a
stop.
friend who needs somebody." And I was like, "No, I get free popcorn." And I
Oh,
hung up the phone.
that's
But then I thought about it. And I was like, well, I don't love smelling like popcorn and all of that stuff. So I went and had an interview. My first job in eye care was a Pearl Vision in Buffalo Grove, Illinois, in the suburbs of Chicago. And I was trained by an old school optician named Leo Homoto, who is still in the industry. He's sold his Pearl since then. But one of the key takeaways from him, I mean, obviously, I learned how to be an optician, fell in love with, to your point, all of the facets of the industry, because being an optician isn't just sales. It's, you get to be a physics nerd, right? You get
Yes.
to like learn all this new
You can nerd
tech.
out on
You
all
get
these
to
different
understand
things.
how, yeah, how light bends, how frames are made, like what changes like a good frame to a great frame, or a good frame to a bad one. Like, how do you identify those things? So I was relentlessly fascinated with all of it. But a philosophical element that I learned from Leo and his dad in that practice was, when I first started selling, said your job is to take the patient's money and get them to thank you for taking it.
I like that.
And it was like such a crystallizing moment of philosophy where, like, we're selling kind of expensive stuff,
Hmm.
right? And
Yes.
patients don't necessarily understand why they're so expensive. So it is incumbent on me as somebody communicating with them to get them to understand that, yes, this is a $900 pair of glasses, but here's why, and here's why you want every last bit of this $900 pair of glasses. And
Yes.
it's carried me through for these last 25 years. And I can't thank that level of training enough.
Yeah. Well, and I love that saying so much because it seems so superficial at the start, right?
Right.
But then you realize once you hear, the punchline is that you realize
Yeah.
to get them to thank you means that you have done your job in such a brilliant way that they're like, here, please take it. Yes, this is fabulous,
Yes.
right? And that's such a beautifully placed saying. I like that a lot. That's another Steve Alexander one I'm
It's
going to have to credit you for.
Well, it's worked really well. I was when on the Bill Gerber episode of Best Practices. Please subscribe. Go listen to that. I talked with him about the way that I was always flattered when a patient would wait for me, even when there was an optician ready to serve them. They'd say, "No, no, I'd rather wait for Steve." For me, that was another indication that I've done right by them. And
Yes.
that philosophy, I'm going to take their money, but they're going to thank me for taking it. That is a North Star to help me make sure I do right by patients. And I think that's invaluable.
Right, right. And being able to have that. Now, here's what's really interesting is that it is very gratifying to have those moments with patients. It means that you've made an impact. It means that you have influenced them in such a positive way that they want to keep coming back to you, right? So this is really great. And one thing I want to highlight, we're just going to start jumping into stuff, is that so many doctors, opticians, even anybody on the optical team, they're like, oh, our patients love us. Our patients love us. We're doing it great. We're doing a great job. Our patients love us. Let me tell you, I had numerous patients from the last time I was actually running an optical. I had countless patients that would be, there would be a little line waiting, like, oh, I'll wait for Kayla. I'll wait for Kayla. And I'm like, "Ugh, I don't have time." Great
Yeah.
thing. But I will tell you right now, the person that I and the optician and the communicator and everything else that I am right now is so much better than I was at that time. I feel like I was maybe only almost doing them a disservice, or I was connecting with those people, but think about all the other people that I wasn't connecting with. And that's where a lot of
Right.
offices kind of get stuck when we're talking a little bit about how a practice can adapt and change with continued training, is that, again, you don't know what you don't know. And refining your skills that are already awesome to make sure that you have an impact even more patients and you have more of that connection with them. That is something that I would say, like, even looking back, where offices now, I'll be talking to them and they'll say, our patients love us, our doctors love us. You should read our reviews. Totally. Totally. That is so great. That should not be the reason that you're not doing a continued training. It's ridiculous because think of what you could be. Think of who the person that you were 10 years ago and the person that you are now. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, if I only knew now what I know then, right? How many of us can say that?
Yeah. Man, I think a mark of maturity for me is a little personal. A mark of maturity for me is recognizing that anytime I look back on past Steve, I will think, man, what an idiot he was.
Means I'm feeling better.
Thank goodness I'm perfect now.
Stop. I love it.
But I think to that point, I think what the overarching kind of concept there is like it actually doesn't matter how good you are right now. You can always be better. And maybe
Always.
it's
Yeah.
in a particular direction, or there's a specific thing that you can improve upon, or maybe there's something that you just don't know right now that you could know, right? And there are things that you don't have exposure to that you can be exposed to and add to your skill set. I think there's a great example of in Glenview, Illinois, there's a practice, I think it's called Corner Optical, and they have an acetate lab on site. The
Cool.
optician will custom make frames. Like they'll custom make lenses, but they'll custom make frames. And what a cool experience that has to be for a patient, right? To be
Yes.
able to come in, pick their colors, pick their shape, and know that this frame is completely bespoke to them.
That is
How awesome.
beautiful. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
That is
And
something
just an
that's so
example of
unique.
like,
Keep going. Sorry.
yeah, and you like you said, you don't, if you don't know what you don't know, referring back to the previous conversations, go out to events, go to conferences, learn, be exposed to as much as you can, but then pick a thing and add it to your repertoire. Because if your patients love you now, imagine how much more they'll love you if you add this one thing,
Hmm.
whatever that might be.
Yes. Yeah, that's something that helps to set you apart and make you a little different. Love that. That's really cool. I hadn't heard of that. I know like Travis LaFur has his thing in Utah that he's making them back there, but I hadn't heard of anybody else doing that. I think it's so genius. Really cool.
Yeah, I went in for a visit, and custom frames aren't much more expensive than existing designer frames. They're the same or pretty close to. So it's just like a way to set yourself apart. And then imagine how often somebody with a bespoke pair of glasses will have to tell that story, or will, excuse me, get to tell
Get
that
to.
story.
Yes.
Hey, I love your glasses. Where did you get them? I had them custom made in Glenview. Go see my guy.
Yes.
That's pretty neat, as opposed to, oh, you have Ray-Bans. Cool.
That's exactly right. Cool. Yeah, I love it. That's so great and really cool and unique. And I know just because I know the naysayers in our industry, some might be listening to this and going, well, there's no way we're going to be able to make custom frames. There's no, you're missing the point if that's what you're thinking.
Right.
Because
Right.
the point is, what is something that you guys can be doing to really set yourselves apart? What is something that can be very, very unique? We have one office that they are partnered up with a local, um, uh, wait for it. It just left me. Florist. I was like, flower shop, botanist, like florist. They're teamed up with the local florist. Every morning, that florist will bring by a couple dozen roses or a couple dozen daisies or a couple dozen tulips or something like that. And they've got these cute little things that every patient that leaves, they walk out with one of their flowers. Right. So it's not just the arrangement that's sitting there. They actually walk out with it. And they actually did it for, I think it was like a Mother's Day celebration or something like that years and years ago. And so they were just, handing out basically flowers to all the moms, right? Well, what ended up happening is mom goes back to work and she now takes her cute little tulip or carnation or whatever it is into the office and they go, "Where'd you get that?" And they go, "Oh, we got it at I got it at
Right.
my eye doctor." It was like the best marketing tool for them. And so now they always give out these flowers and they give them out to men and women and, like, "Here, take this to your wife. She'll love it." And it's just one simple little flower and they have like the little plastic thing that has a little water thing in it, like a little, looks like a little like tube.
Yeah.
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 And it's so cute and they'll just pop it in there. Boop, here, we would love for you to take this. And like it's the best marketing tool ever, but something is simple. You don't have to be making frames. Just what is that one thing? What is something that can be setting you apart? It can really make a difference in your patient's perception of your office.
So, and I think it's really important in the context of, practices saying that, our patients love us, check out our reviews. And that's great, genuinely, really important. If you've got good reviews, you've got 5-star ratings across the board, that is awesome. But there's a difference between what somebody's going to put online and what they're going to tell people that they know. And there's a difference with how willing they are to volunteer that information if they've gotten like a pretty good experience versus an exceptional experience. Right. And I think often that's missing. And I'd love your take on this because I know you've got a lot of data on practices. Businesses in our industry don't often take customer satisfaction surveys seriously. They don't necessarily invest in doing them with any regularity. They don't participate in kind of the newer metrics that other business books have laid out. Like, I used to do CSATs, but if I was in practice now, I would do exclusively NPS, Net Promoter Score.
Oh, okay.
And for those listening that are unfamiliar, a Net Promoter Score is a rating from 0 to 10. If somebody fills this out and they give you a 0 to 6, they are a detractor. If they had a 0 to 6 experience, they are going to tell everybody they know not to go to your practice. If they had a 7 or 8, that's a neutral opinion. And now, 7 or 8 out of 10 sounds like a positive opinion, but in terms of being a promoter, that's neutral.
Yes.
They're going to give you a 7 or an 8. They're not telling anybody about your
That means
practice.
you're
And
in no way
they might come
remarkable.
back
Yeah.
and they might not, but you're in no way remarkable.
Mhm.
Literally, that word precisely. They will not remark on your business at
Yeah.
all. And it's so important. And if they give you a 9 or a 10, they will tell people about it. They will volunteer that information or are really likely to do that. So, how because at least from what I know, not a lot of practices are doing that. What's your experience been with that? Have you seen practices tracking that kind of thing, and what separates practices that do from the ones that don't?
Not enough are, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that absolutely.
It's not a topic of conversation in my conversations with our offices. Usually it's centered more around how can we make change from inside the office rather than this is what we're doing to monitor these. We'll have conversations about reviews and how to stimulate reviews, how to ask for them. It is important to be asking for reviews because I know before I go to a restaurant, I'm looking at their Instagram. I'm looking at other reviews. There's a gal who does food reviews in the area that she's really good about, like, here's what's great, avoid this. And this was meh. This is a little, like I want that. I want to know what to avoid and what,
Hmm.
so the same type thing is true when people are coming to your business and your business happens to be an optometry clinic. And at your optometry clinic, what is being said? How is that looking online? And also, which is really important, how does your social media look online? And this is what absolutely kills me is because so many offices are like, well, I'm not good at social media, so I just hire a company to do it. Okay, if you are going to hire a company, they are not you, and your patient is not going there to see stats on, the most dangerous holiday for eyes, or when the office is going to be closed, or all of this other ridiculousness. They don't care. Those are ads. They will keep scrolling
Right.
when it doesn't look like something that's appealing. Now, if they see you and they're like, "Oh, that's Dr. Johnson. It's funny. Look at he's in these cool glasses. Oh, he's talking about. Oh, oh, that's so funny. They're doing like a 1 or 2 on their like something to be able to involve you because." So many offices are so proud of like our patients love us. They love coming in to see us. We take such good care of them. But then when it comes to social media, oh, we're going to hire somebody else to do it. Okay, if you have hired somebody else to do it, great. You need to be making at least 2 posts a week that are about you guys because they want to see you. And when they can see you, that's something that's very impactful. Usually, I'm big on social media with encouraging patients like, hey, we would love those frames look so great on you, Mary. We would love if you could take a photo and tag us on social media. We would really love it. It would really help to get the word out about our office. And we appreciate having your business. So, those types of things and those types of conversations, some people feel for some reason, I don't get it, but they feel uncomfortable asking for that. But I mean, don't ask it of everyone because if they're not happy, I don't want them to write. But if you do
Right.
that patient
Right.
right there in front of you that absolutely loves it, you can ask for a review, but how powerful is it if they post a selfie of themselves and they're in your glasses and they're like, hey, I got my glasses from Family Eye Center, and then all of their friends see it. There's no more authentic validation than that. And so, back to what was our original question? I lost my train of thought. Be-
It was
the
about customer
scores.
satisfaction
Yes.
surveys, net promoters,
Yes.
yeah, that kind of
Yes.
thing.
So my focus with offices is trying to get that authentic promotion that way with people giving them the validation through social media. I'm not having a lot of conversations about kind of that scoring system and things like that. I'm more of a in your face kind of person. So I don't know that and I wish that I did, but I don't.
Well, I think the advice that you've given is super strong anyway, because your online presence does tell a story. It does go back to the previous conversation we had about communication, verbal and non-intentional. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yes.
So I'm going to take a little bit of a journey with me when I ask you this question, because it is related to what we're talking about, but it might not sound it at first.
Okay.
How important is it for a practice to have a well understood mission statement and vision statement to refer to as part of their training? And then what effect does that have on their online presence and their ratings and their brand and so forth?
Good job. So,
It's a journey,
yeah,
right?
no, I love it. Okay. For those who have never read the book Traction, I'm looking for it on my thing here. Basically, being able to come up with some sort of most eye care practices, let me back up. Most eye care practices mission statement, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but most of them sound like this. We love giving people the opportunity to have the best gift of sight for their entire lives. Cool. Nobody cares. Like, that's your job.
Right.
That's your job. That's not your mission statement. So in the book Traction, the author, I can't remember his name right now, but the author talks a lot about being able to come up with your passion and your niche. And it really helps to drill down, why is it that we're doing these things? And I have a mini course based upon what I learned in this book that helps offices really come down to, what is it that makes us different? What is it that makes us different than, because you're that same mission statement, that really boring one that I said, we get a help with a gift of sight every day.
Right.
That mission statement can be repeated for pretty much anybody in eye care, including
Right.
the online resources and things like that. So, what is it that is actually setting you apart? And what it should be is, it should be something that you can filter all of your decisions through. Okay. So one that I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I might have to pull it up really quick so I don't butcher it. But one that I really love is, go ahead.
As you're pulling that up, I think what I'm hearing you say with mission statement is super important. That I actually had a CE course about the value of a vision statement as it relates to a mission statement, because they
Okay.
are different things. But there is so many things that are repeatable on so many websites, so many practice websites, that they become sort of meaningless.
Yes.
Anybody can say we make high quality eye care. Anybody can say we want to take care of your family. Anybody can say we've got diagnostic technology and look at our cool logo with glasses in it.
Yes. Yes.
That aside,
Yes.
though, I think it's actually really important that your mission statement and you're living through it, working through your mission statement, should help answer the question for your patients and your prospective patients: why you, why now?
Yes.
If your mission statement and the way you operate don't answer that question, you are not going to capture many patients.
Totally. Totally. And kind of a similar type, I guess, framework or setup for it. The thing that I love that is in this book Traction is that they help to teach you how to really get your team together and figure out what is your passion and what's your niche. And your passion should be a statement, one statement, little tiny, not too long. In optometry, we love all of our words, no words, very few words, where we can drill down to, what is our passion? And the passion shouldn't have any sort of reference as to what your career is or what your job is or what you guys are doing, right? And then the niche should identify that one thing that really whittles down the most exciting part of what you're doing or your purpose of what you're doing, right? So I did this exercise with one of our offices before I created the mini course, because I wanted to see, can they drill it down without me, saying, do this, do this, do this. Basically, you walk through all these different exercises. And so their passion that they came up with is customer delight. Okay, I'm listening. The niche, so customer delight, exciting eye care that must be shared. That's cool. So basically, their kind of screen that they run everything through is this going to be exciting enough that somebody's going to share it? That's awesome, right? So if they're bringing on a piece of equipment that nobody really cares about and it's something that's not going to make a wow impact, sorry, not going to make the cut. But if they have something that really has this wow factor that is going to be exciting for the patient, because they're in eye care. I mean, we're in eye care. It could be a very boring industry, but we also have fashion. We have all these other things. So when they go about bringing on a new brand, that's something that is exciting that people are excited about. That's when we realize we've hit the nail on the head. So I love this dynamic because it helps offices to come up, just really step out of the box of we have beautiful eye care. We create beautiful eyewear for eyes every day. Stop it. Like to have something that is refined. Their whole thing is they want it shareable. Now, they talked a lot about social media. They wanted to have a better social media presence. They knew online was a great way for them to be able to have more exposure in their community. So that was kind of the ways that they were drilling it down. And then they were like, okay, but how does that impact us? Well, if we make sure that everything that we do is exciting, that people are talking about it, honestly, I think it's one of the best things, and they still use it to this day. I think it's absolutely fabulous. But to hear some of the things that some of the offices come back with, some are a little bit more exciting, some are a little bit less exciting. But even as such, it's what matters to them. And when we can get out of the realm of our collegiate mindset of like what we've been told to reiterate, rather than like
Right.
this is what actually matters to people and this is what we want to be portraying to people, is something really powerful.
I couldn't agree more. I think this is also a way to break through the heavy predecessor influence that we have in the eye care. Because instead of looking backwards at what we were, we're focused on what we are and what we would like to be. And we
Yes.
build with that. So I think if we could, focusing on this passion and niche situation that you've laid out beautifully, how does that understanding, you made a quick point, and please feel free to dive deeper
Uh-huh.
into it. You made a quick point about how it helps them decide what to bring in or not to bring in if they don't make the cut. So please feel free to dive deeper into that. But also, how does that knowledge, that what their passion and what their niche is, how does that affect how they train their team in an ongoing way?
In a resoundingly intense way, everyone is focused on it because that's what a mission statement, that's what the intention of a mission statement is, right? Is to have this level of focus that is so refined that everyone knows what it is. Everyone in the training, they notice such a massive change in the team and the team's mindset from day to day because they had this drive, this purpose, this thing. They talked about it at every meeting. When they were talking with patients, they're like, is this something that's exciting to you? Because it's our goal to always be exciting. The verbiage is something that reiterates and is echoed throughout every part of their not just training, but then also their day to day and how they go about
Right.
actually performing throughout the day. It's like this level of excellence. And when we were doing this exercise, one thing that they said is customer delight, right? I care that must be shared. So they really liked the word delight, and so did I. I thought it was fabulous. Their whole thing was, what does delight mean? Like when you think about being delighted, it's not just that you're happy, it's not just that you're content. You're like delight, like it's so light and free and airy. So like when someone comes in from the front door, we're everyone, because of this delight, they want to make sure that person is delighted. So they're going to, hi, how are you? We'll be right with you. They're always really aware of the intentionality, I guess, is there so much more vividly. And that's what's really, really important. Back to the filter system, being able to filter things through this grid of, okay, is it going to add delight to our people? Now, yes, it might increase. Let's say that there's a new piece of equipment that the sales rep has told you is going to increase your bottom line by this much and whatever. After we bill insurance, after we do everything else, the sales rep has told you a certain number and you're like, okay, cool. Is it though going to make a big difference? So one of the examples that they gave, and I won't say the product, we'll just say the SAM machine, just making something up. But they were like, had we had this before, we probably wouldn't have chosen the SAM machine, whatever it was, to take these measurements
Right.
because it was not anything that was profound to the patient. It's not really anything that is exciting to the team. Therefore, it's not exciting to anyone, and it's not bringing about that delight to our customers. So, yeah, it really helps with being able
Yeah.
to and put things through a filter.
But it's actually such an interesting microcosm. Delight has such a strong connotation that people feel what that word means when they
Yes.
say it. For me, when I hear delight, I hear an element of surprise, right? Something unexpected, something that is different than what you might expect at a different place in a positive way, exclusively in
Yes.
a positive way. Nobody
Yes.
likes a bad surprise.
Yeah.
But I think having that as a filter and referring to that in your training, referring to that in your day to day makes it clearer what you're trying to accomplish and builds the road for you to accomplish that thing. It's so important and so frequently missed. All of our conversations, there's a lot of focus on, like you said, equipment and bottom line promises that may or may not actually manifest. But if your team has a North Star that they can follow, that increases patient retention, increases capture rate, increases patient satisfaction, certainly, but also staff satisfaction, right? I think an under recognized element of this is if your team isn't well trained and they don't have a mission that you're on together, one, not really a team, and two, much more likely to leave.
Yes, exactly, because they don't have that connection. And let's kind of focus on the team there really quick. One thing I love about this exercise that I trained on that is in traction is basically being able to utilize the hive mind. So many times when we own a business or own a practice, we're like, okay, this is going to be our mission statement. This is where we're at. But you're limiting yourself to what is in your brain at that time. Where what I love about these exercises is the doctor never would have come up with the word delight. know?
Right.
And being able to drill things down with all of these, I know the doctor personally, so I know that you would have been able to come up with that word. And so, but to be able to utilize, your team that is there going through the same day to day, going on the same mission and the same journey as you, and to use that hive mental opportunity is exponentially more opportunistic. I don't know, you can have so much more opportunity just with having your team being involved in these things and coming up with a purpose together. The first time that after this had gone live, I had a doctor that emailed me who's a I would consider him a friend now. He emailed me and he's like, Kayla, you know my team. I'm not going to task them to this because they're going to be like, no, it sucks. Everything sucks. This all sucks. I'm like, first off, you don't know that that's true. And secondly, maybe this
Right.
is just something that they need to give them a path so that things suck less. Like, maybe we need that direction so that they have that guidance. It proved to be it needed a little help and a little coaching, but it proved to be a very good exercise for them to kind of get people on this path of if you don't have a purpose and you're basically wandering around aimlessly, you're never going to know when things are great. I listened to this podcaster, Eddie Pinheiro, and he talks a lot about when you go through life, like, tell me, what is a great day for you? What does a great day look like? And if you go, well, I don't know. Well, then how are you ever going to know if you have one?
Right.
You need to define where your team is going. You need to define what is a good day? What does this look like? Because then you know what that looks like. Because you might very well be living in it and you have no recognition, like you have no awareness that you're there. And so I think it's something that's really important to utilize the team to help create this path.
I couldn't agree more. I think there's so much here, and we could keep going forever, but I know we want to limit this to as brief as we can. So I'm going to recap what I've heard so far, and please correct me with what I've missed. As you're thinking about turning training, ongoing development into a more successful practice, things that help you to identify are your passion and niche, and then use that information as you define as both a guide and a filter. A guide for behavior and training and development, and a filter for the things you're not going to do because they don't align with what you're trying to accomplish, with what your mission is. So move with intentionality. Build your team with that guide in mind, with that North Star, and then leverage their perspective to make your mission, your passion, your niche clearer and more specific to the team that you have. Because, and quick diversion here, you might be the practice owner and you might have great ideas. You probably have great ideas, but so does your team. And limiting your business's ideas to just the ones that you come up with yourself is what it says on the tin, limiting. you've got these great people, to not leverage them is such a missed opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's one thing that when it comes to training, our leadership often sees themselves as like, I'm the end all be all know all. Yeah, I know all the things. And that mentality automatically from a top down perspective sets you up for a real failure. It really does, because it's very limiting, right? Because when you know everything, when you are the end all be all, you don't see opportunities where they lie. And so, one thing I encourage offices to do is, we'll get on the phone with doctors. Rook usually takes all of our new doctor calls. And so, he'll get on the phone with doctors, and the doctors will be like, okay, so this is when I'm wanting my team to do this, and I'm wanting my team, and I'm wanting my team. And one of the first things he'll say is, listen, you need to be in on these as well. You need to be doing the trainings as well, because not only do you know what your team is learning, but I guarantee you you will be learning things as well. And so Rook will watch until they're through a portion of one of the courses that he has assigned to them. And then he'll call them back and they're like, yep, you're right. Yes, exactly. So we can always be learning. And so I like how this conversation was really centered around kind of like the bigger picture with the team and training and things like that. And the little bow that I would put on top is owners and leadership. I would want you guys as there as well, making sure not just that you're setting a good example for your team, but making sure that what is being learned is something that you are not going to be caught in the dust on. Right?
Right. Right. That's, yeah, it's so important.
Mhm.
Fantastic. Kayla, I can't thank you enough for participating. Thank you for joining me on best practices. How do the people listening get in touch with you?
Yeah, to learn more about what we're doing at Spexy and the impact that we're making, you can go to bespexy.com. It's BESPEXY, or you can just Google us. We have a very unique name, which works out really well in our favor when it comes to Google searches. So you can just look up Spexy. You can always look us up on social media too. We have some really good opportunities where people are sharing the love on kind of some of the social media group platforms. So look into all that Spexy's doing. I promise you will not be disappointed, that's for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kayla.